Did you hear the joke about that extremely valuable package that came in the mail? I didn't get it either. So there's that. Once in a while, you'll sell an item, package it up carefully, ship it out, and it comes back to you for various reasons. Not because the buyer returned it, but because it was not able to be delivered. Maybe the address ended up being bad, and it may or may not have been bad, but whoever was trying to deliver it, post office, FedEx, UPS, they thought it was bad. Maybe your label got messed up. Most of the time, you actually don't know what the reason is. Now, this is rare, and I'm surprised it's not more common. I would say in the last 2 years, I've received 4 packages back that I've sold on eBay. I just got this back yesterday, so I thought I would tell you about it and other ways of handling packages that you get back from a sale. Now, this one I need to handle differently from the way you and I handle most boxes that get returned to us. So let me talk about the common one. The most common is the address is wrong. Now, as long as you ship to the address on the eBay label, eBay said to ship to, you're covered. You don't need to worry about a thing. What do you do whenever 2 or 3 weeks after you ship something, you get it back? Well, you need to contact your buyer and say, this came back. Now, I strongly suggest you don't open that box, but take a picture of the label and take a picture of what the post office stamped on the box. And often the post office will put a label over the address when they return it to you. Take a picture of the way that you got it, make it clear, and whenever you send your buyer through eBay messages, a note saying, this came back, what do you want us to do? Also attach a picture to that eBay message. eBay messages you can attach pictures to. If they're reading it on their phone or on a computer, they'll see the picture that you attach. I would point out the picture so they don't overlook it. Sometimes it's at the top and they're scrolling down and reading the message. And it is sometimes easy to actually miss the picture on an eBay message depending on how you're reading it. I wish eBay would sort of make it more obvious. So we will always say, as the attached picture shows, your package came back to us for, now in this case, undeliverable. It was returned to us by the post office. What would you like us to do? I wouldn't suggest anything more than to ask, what would you like us to do? Most of the time they will say, rats, we don't know what the problem is, or yeah, the address has changed, or something like that, and can you ship it again to this address? You have a decision to make. In that case, if you ship to an address that's not in the eBay record at the time of the sale, eBay will not cover you. If something goes wrong, if that buyer says he or she never received the package when you ship it out again. So there's a little bit of risk involved, but you can kind of feel it out. 2 of the 4 times in the last couple of years that I've received one of these, the buyer has said, just bad address, ship it to this address. I've gone ahead and done that. It wasn't a huge sale. I was taking a little risk, but not a big deal. It seemed like the right thing to do. The wrong thing to do, though, is to do this at your expense. That buyer sent you a bad address. It's not your fault. It was returned to you. So what you need to do is to ask that buyer to pay for the new mailing label. And the way that you do this is you say, I wouldn't say you have to pay for the return label. If they reply back and they say, yeah, that's true, bad address, or we've had this happen before, but the address was good. That's a good answer. That does happen. The delivery person just messed up. And it sometimes is like a rural route type of address, and it happens. We used to live out in the country in the middle of nowhere. I know that it happens that a box didn't get properly delivered the first time, even though the address on the package was correct. If the buyer says we would like you to send it to this address or to send it to the same address, if they say send it to the same address, that's great. That means you're still protected under the eBay rules. Don't say, I need you to pay for this label. What you then need to follow up with, whether they say send it to the same address, it'll arrive, or send it to a corrected address, you need to say, how would you like to pay for this second mailing label? Would you like to pay with PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, something like that? Just make offers of suggestions. Now, if you have PayPal but you don't have Venmo, a lot of people have Venmo on their phone. You should probably get all of those, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. You should probably have an account with each of those because this type of thing will come up in your business once in a while. And you want whatever your buyer has. If your buyer has Venmo and you don't, well, just copy the app to your phone create an account and you're ready to accept money. Just do that real fast. It's not a big deal. This is 2024, 2025. This is the modern age. It's okay to have Venmo and PayPal and Cash App and all, Apple Pay if you use one of those girl phones. And it's okay to have all of those accounts. You don't have to ever use them, but that way, if your buyer uses a certain account and has money with that account, the buyer can send you money. I don't ever want to turn down money. I'll take however they want to pay me, I will accept. Warning. There are people that believe that if you mention PayPal or Venmo or anything like that to a buyer in an eBay message, that eBay will shut you down. That is not correct in this case. eBay is perfectly fine and they never care if one or both of you mention payment, ways to pay for a transaction that has already taken place. If that buyer has bought something from you and for whatever reason it got messed up and you need to do something like this, eBay will not care if you mention, send me some money to pay for this mailing label. However, if you have not done business with another eBayer, never, ever, ever mention any sort of payment like this. This is where it gets tricky. This is where people confuse the issue. eBay totally understands that sometimes after a sale has taken place, more money must be exchanged. Sometimes a buyer will go, we need this faster. Can you ship it overnight? And you go, sure. How do you want to pay for it? They'll say PayPal. You say, here's my PayPal address. Ship me $23 or whatever it is, and we'll ship it to you overnight instead of Ground Express or whatever it is. eBay knows those situations are required in certain instances after a sale has taken place. eBay will not close you down. Why would eBay care if you mention payment before you've transacted business? It's because eBay doesn't want you to sell to someone off eBay. eBay totally deserves their commission on every sale that they bring you two together on. So if you message someone or they message you about a payment system, let's say that someone messages you and says, do you accept PayPal as a payment? You are not to answer that question. Buyers know what you accept. A lot of times that's just fraud, but eBay will not like that question. eBay's bots will tell eBay support about this. Now, if you don't answer it, nothing's going to happen. It's fine. But if you start talking about payment of any kind before you've transacted business, eBay will start suspecting something fishy, and one of you is trying to avoid paying eBay's fees. eBay often has shut people down in the past for that very thing. They spend millions of dollars every year trying to grow their business. They can't have people circumventing all of their effort. So we've handled one situation out of three. I told you on my package I have to do something differently, but I'm going to tell you about number two. Sometimes the following will happen. Most of the time, it's what we just described. Sometimes you will message the buyer and say, we got this back. What do you want us to do? And you never hear from the buyer. Then you wait a week or two or three, you message the buyer again. You never hear from the buyer. This does happen. This has happened to me before. Actually, it's happened twice. So maybe I've had 5 return packages in a couple of years. Again, that's not very many considering how many packages we ship out of here all the time. I've had 2, the buyer never responded. What do you do? Well, I'll tell you what I did. I waited a full 2 months after the transaction ended. So if the buyer bought on December 1st, I will wait until February 1st, and then simply relist the item. Well, what about refunding the buyer? I'm not going to refund the buyer. The buyer isn't answering my question. The buyer doesn't seem to be available. If I somehow do a refund, the buyer may not ever get the money. I don't know. I'm not just going to let the money be in limbo. I'm going to keep it. If 2.5 months later, the buyer goes, oh no, we just saw this. What are we going to do? What can we do? I will say, fine, it's already sold. I had to relist it after a couple of months, but I'll refund your money. That's reasonable, but I'm not going to just volunteer to refund money to someone who doesn't seem to exist. And I think things happen. First of all, people do die once in a while, So sad, but it happens. That's life. People do die. People pass away. People have ordered things, and for whatever reason, there's no one there to accept it, and it comes back to you. So don't return money to someone who simply has shown you no evidence that they're going to get it back. That seems foolish to me. But if later they appear, refund their money, but say, sorry, we had to relist this. I mean, we can only wait so long. We tried to reach you. Now, what happened to me yesterday is unusual. I received a box and it was strange because there's a priority label. See that priority label? I don't ship very much priority mail. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've shipped priority mail for months because the post office ground advantage is such a great deal. For me, for my buyers, it's very speedy. It's not priority mail speed, but it's very fast. We get a lot of feedback that says it arrived much faster than we expected, much faster than the estimate, the arrival estimate that they always see whenever they get your tracking number. But this has a priority mail sticker. When did I mail this thing? Okay, I am recording this on November 16th. November 16th. When you look at the date, this was mailed on January 11th. This was mailed literally 11 months ago, and it just now came back. Now, what the postal stamp says is return to sender unclaimed. I don't know how you claim a package. I don't know if it's not going to a post office. I don't know what unclaimed means. I don't really care. I just know that this package sat for 11 months and it was never picked up, even though it's a street address. It was just never delivered, and the post office finally, 11 months later, returned it to me. What am I going to do about this? Well, I can't even contact the buyer. I mean, the buyer isn't around. The buyer's not there. The buyer would have asked about this a long time ago. Oh, I suppose I could write the buyer and ask, but I'm just not going to waste my time. The buyer had 11 months to get this. I'm not going to send the buyer a refund. I'm not going to cancel the sale. I can't cancel the sale this late. I'm not going to do anything but open this box and relist it. That's not unreasonable. That's not selfish. That's just reasonable to do that. This is a special case. Months, almost 1 year later, I get the box back. I'm not going to try to find this guy. I'm a busy person. You're a busy person. You can't track. You're not Dog the Bounty Hunter. You can't track down these people. I would say again, if they someday come to you and say, where was this? Where's this box? We never got it. You can say, and maybe you might want to take a picture of the label and keep this for a couple of years, maybe, I don't know. That way, if the buyer does in a few months come back to me and say, where's our box? Well, the buyer can't do anything about it. The buyer can't give me negative feedback. I think feedback can only be given 60 days after a listing. The buyer can't ask for the sale to be canceled. The sale isn't cancelable this late. There's no more sale. There's no more active anything about this transaction 11 months ago. But if the buyer does reach me, contact me and say, this was a ballpoint pen, actually, a Mont Blanc ballpoint pen. Where's my pen? We never got it. That way I can, if I take a picture of this box, I can say, well, not my fault. We got it 11 months later, just assumed you were gone, and we had to resell it, but we will refund your money. That's reasonable to send them. Now, eBay won't let you refund a sale that long ago, so you're going to have to decide how much of their income went to eBay fees, how much went to shipping. You're going to have to kind of figure out how much to refund them, because you can't just refund them the full amount. You don't have the full amount. Not your fault. You mailed it. You're out the postage. It's not your fault. You mailed it. You're out the eBay fees. Not your fault. Not eBay's fault. You don't have any responsibility whatsoever to refund eBay's fees, and eBay's not going to refund eBay's fees. They wouldn't mess with something 11 months old. Why should you? So you'll have to deduct out all of that, maybe a little extra for your trouble, and say, I will refund you our income on this transaction because we had to sell it again. That's perfectly reasonable. So if something comes back 2 or 3 weeks or even a month later because of a bad address or something, contact your buyer, say, what would you like us to do? You sometimes hear from them and sometimes never hear from them. If you hear from them, ask them how they would like to pay for the second shipping label, and you will get it in the mail right away as soon as they pay that. Let's say the buyer's a jerk and says, I'm not going to pay for it again. Just because you had a bad address, I'm still not going to pay shipping twice. Okay, that's fine. You can cancel the sale at that point or refund the buyer everything but the shipping label because you're out the money to ship the item. But that won't happen. People understand it's not your seller's fault. We have to pay for shipping again. If it's been a month or so and you contact your buyer and they never contact you back, and you might a week or two later try it again just to show good faith, and they still don't contact you, maybe they died, maybe there is a divorce, maybe the house got sold in a divorce, maybe they both were living in an apartment and went their separate ways, and neither one remembers buying something from you on eBay. They just wanted out of that situation, or things like that do happen. If you don't hear from them by the second notice, don't refund the money. Don't do anything. Just wait a full 2 months from the date of the sale and relist it. Yes, keep the money. Again, it's not your job to find people who the post office can't find. And finally, if you get something 11 months later, all bets are off. Don't try to contact them. Don't do anything except relist the item and move on down the road. That's the best you can do. The post office couldn't find them for 11 months. What, you think you're better than that? You're not going to find them either. Don't refund their money. It might be going to some dead account, and you've got this money in limbo that you no longer have, that you earned, at least part of it, because you did your job, and they're just not around. They've left the country or something. Too bad, so sad, not your problem. These are the 3 ways that you address receiving packages back. Now again, all of the packages that I ship year after year after year, the fact that this has only happened to me 4 or 5 times says a lot. It's a very rare occurrence. As much as I badmouth the government post office, and they deserve a lot of the badmouth that I give them, they do a pretty good job about getting packages to people lately. They've actually been very, very good since martial law was put on the neck of every American about 4 years ago during the so-called crisis. And you may remember the December shipping season was horrible at the time. Many packages just never arrived. They got lost. It would be months before they would arrive. Christmas gifts, Hanukkah gifts would arrive months later. It was a mess, and it was all their fault, all the government's fault, every which way but loose on every aspect. But since then, you have to give the post office credit. Since then, the post office has been pretty good about not damaging packages like they used to. They have somehow changed some of their systems, maybe improved some of their conveyor belts, and they seem to be doing a pretty good job lately. Now, they still seem to hate you if you walk into one of their post offices and want to ask for a stamp or something. You know, the lines are out the door and one person is working for 99 people in line. All of that. But in general, the job they do once they finally get your package, I have to give them credit, has been pretty good. So this will be a rare occurrence, but it is something you need to deal with. Bottom line, though, when it comes to someone who recently had their package returned to you, it's perfectly fine to mention a payment system like PayPal. I had someone in the group, in our Facebook group, say someone had mentioned this very problem. And I said, ask them, how do you want to pay for the label? Venmo, PayPal, and then just handle the transaction. And I had this one woman, that's no lady, really jump on me and say, eBay will shut you down if you mention PayPal or Venmo in a message. And that's not true. That is not true. She was confused, and I explained eBay understands these things. They have this in effect for this very situation. And later, she gave me a lot of trouble about a lot of things and gave the group a lot of trouble, and she's gone. We just don't do that. People in our group are kind and friendly with each other. We have a lot of fun, actually a lot of joking around. It's really a great Facebook group. You ought to join. It's free. You can cancel anytime. You can just quit anytime if you want. I don't know why you'd want to. Many of these people have been in my eBay group for years, when I started before this one actually, and they just follow me wherever I go. I'm so fortunate to know these people. I really appreciate them. And I appreciate you for watching this video. If you don't mind, click like. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, don't click like. I appreciate your subscribing to this channel. It will make sure that you see future videos I make for you. I want you to have an ultra advanced eBay experience and make a lot of money on eBay. I know a lot about eBay. I can show you how. And if you subscribe to my channel, you will get notices that new videos are available. But also, you will get notices about other YouTubers that teach you advanced ways to sell on eBay. Oh, sure, they're not as good looking as I am and not nearly as smart, but you'll get those too. So it's a bonus, and I appreciate your being here. Thanks for watching.